Queen Karen ruined my dinner trip to Denny's. I know what you guys are thinking, Mr. Reddito, why are you wearing a wig? Guys, this is a Karen-style haircut, and I have one of the most crazy Karen stories that's ever been read on this channel. I can't wait to read this 3-part story. It's about a grandma who goes to Denny's and she bumps into OP, who's sitting there with her daughter, waiting to be seated for food. You will not believe what unravels after that, involving police, lawyers, a court, and a mystery man wearing goggles. I can't wait to talk about this at the end of the story in the comment section below. Let's get right to it. I, female 20, am here, and I can't even believe I'm typing this story out right now. It freaking happened less than 2 hours ago, and I'm fuming. I was walking into the local Denny's as usual per my Sunday travels. I typically go to Denny's with my baby, who, by the way, is biracial. Important later. I don't want to get away from the main story too much, but a little backstory is yes, I'm a single mother. Yes, I hooked up with someone drunk at a party and I got pregnant at age 17. The father's not in the picture, nor has he ever been. But don't get my words mistaken. I've always and will always provide for my baby girl, who will be 3 years old in a few weeks. Okay, back to the present and the entire reason I'm posting this. Here I am walking into the Denny's with my baby girl Emily in tow. Emily's upset we did not stay home this morning since the new cartoon she loves watching was being premiered in the morning. Well, I guess the gloom of Emily's face and her aura attracted the attention of the freaking Antichrist, aka the biggest Karen I've ever seen, aka the GOAT of all Karens. This woman was in her late 70s or 80s if I were to guess, and she immediately walked over to me and my daughter standing in line and said, I quote, "Stick that lip in. The pouting you're doing is making me lose my appetite." Mildly shocked, I just smiled at her, but inside I was thinking how rude this action was by this lady. Emily did seem to respond though, I think. She was a little shocked and confused. It seemed like the actions Emily did with her upper mouth movement satisfied the needs of Karen, and she went back and sat down with her husband. Weird, but I mean, she's freaking 80-something years old, so I'll just let it slide. I wish it was that simple at least. And I wish the story ended there. We finally get seated and the waiter walks over to greet us and proceeds to take our drink order. Before I could even get the word Mountain Dew out of my mouth, the Karen comes running over to the table saying she overheard I was ordering a soda pop for my daughter, scolding me in a loud manner, now stating, do I even know the long-term effects on a young mind from drinking soda? Saying that this is why me and my baby are overweight. I was actually sitting there in shock as the waiter, who did not say a word when all this was happening. I think right around this moment, the husband of the Karen came over, waltzing over at this irate old lady saying, "Come on, Margaret, leave these here people be. If the mother wants to ruin her baby, then that's her decision to make." I swear to God, guys, I started looking around me for cameras as if I was on some sort of prank show. This is the moment when the floor manager overheard the commotion and politely asked the Karen and her husband to go take a seat. The floor manager apologized for that and told us the drinks are completely on the house. I don't know why I just sat there and let this lady rip me apart as a mother. I watched this old scraggly lady walk out of the restaurant and I just could not sit there for another second. I was fuming. I got up, grabbed Emily by her hand, and I darted out the door after the Karen to give her a piece of my mind. I know in hindsight it was a horrible idea to even expose Emily to that type of toxicness, but my emotions got the better of me, and I just had to. Obviously, I caught up to this lady who was using a freaking walker. I proceeded to tell her what she said in there was completely out of line. And she can't go around calling people fat and insulting them. Then the following conversation proceeds. Karen, I can do whatever the hell I want, you fat piece of crap. If anyone here is the piece of crap, it's you, you old jerk. You're a horrible mother and your daughter will be a horrible person. I bet you don't even know who the father is. That's it. I'm going to call the police on you for harassment. They will never believe a word you say. Guys, it was at this moment I realized I was dealing with one of the most insane, psycho, unhinged women beings that walked on this planet. This Karen proceeds to dive on the floor. Yes, an 80-year-old woman, literally Hollywood Hulk Hogan, body slammed herself to the ground and starts screaming like something I've never heard before. I will have to say the one thing I noticed is the husband's face did not even flinch, as if this old Karen has done this before. She starts screaming at the top of her lungs. Call the police! This woman assaulted me! Well, guys, to say she caused the scene is an understatement. Right next to the Denny's was a car show happening that day. She managed to get the attention of over 100 people. Everyone rushed us in a circle and I saw at least 8 people calling the police. She just looks up at me and smiles, then continues to pretend to grovel in pain. This Karen would do this until police arrived, which felt like an eternity. The second the police get there, they walk over to me, yank my little baby Emily out of my arms, telling me to put my hands behind my back. I'll now be arrested for assault. I'm pleading with the officer I did nothing. Somehow this old Karen had convinced hundreds of people I was actually going to go to jail. There's no cameras in the area to prove that I was innocent. I was actually at a loss for words. I just started crying uncontrollably. They kept me in the back of the police car for at least 30 minutes while they talked to everybody. I couldn't believe I got up from the Denny's just to chase this old Karen down, giving her a piece of my mind. What have I just exposed my little Emily to? I had the worst thoughts gushing through my head. I'm the worst mother. I'm going to lose Emily. That's when I noticed another police officer showed up. He was dressed different than all the others. I think he was a detective. I still don't know to this day what or who he was. He starts chatting with a guy wearing virtual goggles. I had no idea what was happening, and now I've been in the back of the police car for about an hour. Then, like clockwork, the same detective walks over to the police car, opens up the door, takes the handcuffs off me, and tells me I'm free to go. Emily's waiting for you right over there. Take Emily and go now. I did not ask any questions, and stupid me just grabs Emily and runs to the car. I did not care why I was set free. I just had the GTFO now. I took Emily home and we rewatched the episode of the cartoon she missed this morning. To my surprise, Emily did not say a word about the event of today, and we just left it at that. We shared a Brewster's ice cream cone late at night, then crashed for bed, having a successful ending to such a crappy day. Guys, I was not kidding when I said this was one of the wildest Karen stories that I've read. First of all, my opinion on this Karen is, she's a vile human being and she was completely out of line. The way she disrespected OP and her poor daughter right there in a public establishment, then seemingly just waltzes out of there with nothing happening to her. But to be honest, the weirdest part of the story so far is the way the detective goes and talks to some goggle-eye guy, and then seemingly 15 to 20 minutes later, OP's let loose of the back of the cop car and just leaves with no questions asked. After everything she just went through, I found that incredibly weird. At least she did get to go home and enjoy the rest of her day with her daughter. Guys, part 2 is coming up next, and I promise you won't expect what's about to happen. It gets so crazy. Drop your thoughts down below, and if you're enjoying the story so far, smash that like button because part 2 is happening right now. Guys, I thought that was it. I thought I would have never had anything else to add to the story. It has now been 3 weeks since the Karen incident. I was taking Emily to daycare early in the morning when I opened my door to find a note left there and a strange writing. It was like a cursive, but looked like someone was trying to mask their writing or something strange. The note stated, "I know what really happened at Denny's. Meet me at the Starbucks next to your work at 4:15. Okay guys, now I'm freaking out. Like what the actual duck? I was about to call the police, but then a thought ran through my mind. I was thinking about how weird it was I was released that day so suddenly, and to be honest, I wanted to know why. Once again, being the dumb, naive person I was, I thought to myself, just do it, you idiot. I proceeded to drop little Emily off at a daycare, paying an extra $10 PTA fee, so they'll watch her until 6:30. This gives me plenty of time to meet up with my strange note person. Guys, when I say I was anxious the entire day at work, that is an understatement. But finally, the clock hits time and I leave to go to the Starbucks. You will not believe who I see sitting there with a grande frappuccino. It's the weird goggle guy detective was talking to. He waves me over and I went. Yeah, I know I'm out of my mind for even being here. Anyways, I walk over, sit down, and this is how the conversation went. I have some interesting information you might want to know about. Yeah, I'm listening. Well, don't you think it's strange you were released so fast and not told any information about that day at Denny's? Yeah, but I was just happy to be free and I got out of there at the moment. Well, first let me tell you who I am. I fly drones for the car show next to the Denny's and capture all the air footage for the show. Turns out my drone was doing a flyby in the area you were standing out with the old lady. Okay, that's interesting, but what does this even mean? Well, long story short, I captured the entire thing on video. The old lady flopping on the floor and lying, saying you touched her. I have the film footage of the arriving police officer shoving you and manhandling you, and ripping your little daughter from your grasp. The reason the detective was called is because after I showed them the footage, they realized they made a huge mistake assaulting you. They called in a detective to sweep it all under the rug. Well, do you have the footage? Technically yes, technically no. Well, can you explain, please? Well, the detective confiscated my memory card and said it was evidence. But what he didn't realize was I had a drone upload all the footage to my cloud drive instantly the photos are taken. And I have the entire thing on camera. I've been feeling guilty I have this and I wanted to give it to you. Well, thank you, but I don't even know where to go with this video. Take it to this guy I know. He's a lawyer and he'll be able to help you out. I take the business card from the goggle guy and then our conversation ends with an awkward handshake, and we both walk two different ways. I now have this video on a freaking thumb drive and a lawyer card in my hand. I had no idea waking up this morning my evening was about to get so eventful. Anyways, I go to pick up Emily visibly shaken. My hands are trembling and I can't even think straight. I guess Emily picked up on it and I told her nothing's wrong, baby. Let's go get some Chinese food. I put the business card and USB stick in my glove box and tried to forget about it for the rest of the night. Guys, all night I was up tossing and turning. I could not take another second. It was like 2 a.m. and I jumped out of bed, ran down to my car, grabbed the USB stick and tossed it into my laptop. I then watched for the next 20 minutes the entire ordeal unfold from a crystal clear 4K drone shot. I decided right then and there, duck it. I'm going to talk to this lawyer because I felt I was wrongly treated, and I just could not sit by and let this happen. The next morning, the second the office opened, I went to the address on the card and asked to speak to Mr. Dunwile. The lady looked at me odd, but then she smiled and said, right this way. She took me back to the office that had the name on the door in clear writing, Mr. Dooley. I said quickly back to her, oh no ma'am, I'm sorry, I said Mr. Dunwile. Once more, she smiled at me weirdly and said, go on in, he's waiting on you. So, what do? That's right, I went right in. Turns out, Goggle Guy had a long history with Mr. Dooley. And Mr. Dunwile's the name used by Goggle Guy when he refers clients to the office. It's how he gets his commission. This entire time I thought Goggle Guy wanted to help me, but it turns out he was just hooking me up with a lawyer for a cut. I wonder how many other people he's got a commission from using his drone to spy. Anyways, that's beside the point at this point. I still had all the evidence in my hand and a lawyer. So screw that goggle guy. Let's see what happens with this evidence. I hand the USB stick to Mr. Dooley and he takes it. We both look through all the evidence and he tells me about 30 minutes later. We have two options on the table. We do a silent claimant, which basically means we submit the evidence to City Hall, which forces them to make a settlement with us, avoiding us suing them and going to court. Or we can just straight up sue the police station for the way they handled you. I can't guarantee we will win the second option in court, but what I can guarantee is with a settlement like this, you're gonna get at least $20,000 cash with the first option. He told me to think this over because it would be a very important decision. Now I'm sitting here debating with myself over and over again. Please guys, help me decide what I should do with this information. I'll update y'all if anything happens, or should I say, when it happens. Guys, there's so many things going on with this story. In my opinion, I think it would have been incredibly weird if I went to my front door and saw a random note, let alone showing up to the place. But let's say I do that, okay? I go to the coffee shop and I get the evidence. Now that I'm sitting there with a USB stick full of evidence, what would you do? Guys, drop your opinions down below and let me know. Would you go to the police? Would you throw it in the trash can? Would you go and talk to the lawyer and try to figure out what the heck we should do? Guys, the next update's coming up, and let me tell you, the way that this proceeds does get nuts. So go ahead and leave your opinions down below, drop a like on this video, and let's hop into part 3 right now. Well guys, I won't bore you with what happened. I'm sorry it took so long for an update. I've had so much going on with life. I just moved to a different state now and me and Emily are starting to get settled in. Well, let's go ahead and get to the update. I decided screw it. Let's sue the police station and press charges on the Karen with the newly found evidence. My lawyer immediately started the paperwork. It was not a few days later I got a knock on the door of my house. It was the detective from the Denny's. I answered and he told me that he's received my paperwork from my lawyer and wants to now discuss the ongoing investigation. I guess he saw the footage from the drone because he was so much nicer than he was the night at the Denny's, when he just rudely told me to go home. He said he knows I'm interested in pressing charges on the Karen. He needed to collect my statement to make sure it corroborated with the video evidence. He was oddly scouting my house out with random peeks of his eyes during the entire conversation. I just got an incredibly weird vibe when it comes to this guy. Anyways, after about 20 minutes, he stands up and tells me that we will be in touch, and he walks out the front door. Well, that evening, my lawyer called me and told me he had some pretty shocking news. The Karen was in fact arrested and she was being charged with 2 felonies and a misdemeanor, making a false claim of an emergency, slander, and public disturbance. She had to pay like a $10,000 fine, but I'm told she's out on bail now. The police officer who manhandled me like a rag doll has been fired from the department and sent to work at the local jail as a guard. And probably the biggest news of all, the police station has admitted that they were completely in the wrong, and they're pleading with me to agree on a settlement. Guys, when I heard the number, I almost crapped myself. $2.6 million! My lawyer advised me I accept because we would be fighting them in court for months with COVID still affecting court hearings, and it's possible I would not see any money for up to 2 years. I thought long and hard about it and I decided, screw it. It's almost $3 million and it can completely change my life. Well, I accepted it and let me just tell you, it's indeed changed my life. When I mentioned earlier I've moved states, in fact, an $800,000 beachfront property in Gulf Shores. Thanks, Karen. Me and Emily are enjoying life, and last I heard, Karen was set to have her court case soon. Oh, sweet, sweet karma. I seriously doubt it, but if anything else happens with this Queen Karen, you guys will be the first to hear about it. Thanks for all the advice in the comments, and I hope everyone here has an amazing day, because I know me and Emily will. Oh, the bells and sounds of sweet, sweet karma. Guys, my opinion on this ending is, OP got everything she deserved with that settlement, and karma never misses. It struck this poor grandma who was one of the worst Karens I've ever seen. And also, the police officer who decided to manhandle innocent OP is no longer a police officer, and now OP is chilling by the beach with her daughter in a beautiful oceanfront property thanks to the Karen. Guys, leave a comment down below if you want to see some more Karen stories, and if you're new to the channel, my name's Mr. Reddito, and I do daily videos of some of the most drama-filled wild stories. If that sounds like something you might like, check out the channel. I hope you guys have a wonderful night. I'll catch you in the next one.